Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Buddha's Palm, a Hong Kong fantasy action flick from 1982 that was produced by the Shaw brothers. Now, a young nobleman learns kung fu from a blind hermit, of course, but inadvertently gets caught up in a conflict among martial arts masters. So the opening scene is an introduction to the most powerful fighting move ever, the Buddha's Palm. We have a nutty master monk in a weird room who dies in the opening scene, but he's still able to give the ability to a man named Flaming Cloud Devil. Years later, our protagonist for this film crosses paths with Flaming Cloud Devil and learns the technique. Although, I do find it odd how every martial arts master wants this random guy to be taught all of their techniques. I mean, he's just a nobody. He's no one special. Whatever. After our protagonist realizes that the love of his life is marrying someone else, he starts to get himself into some trouble. Then some bad guys eventually hear that Flaming Cloud Devil is back, so they seek him out, and that sets up the big conflict of the story. This movie is completely nuts. I'm just going to tell you right from the start. The style during the opening is crazy. Not only is the setting absurd, but there's animation and some comic book style cutouts that are spliced in. Of course, it's all presented in a frenetic, energetic fashion. Within the opening 10 minutes, you will have an idea of what you're getting into, but there's still plenty of surprises later on, trust me. Remember, this is a Hong Kong fantasy film from the 1980s, so buckle your seatbelt. As I mentioned on this channel before, some of the older Hong Kong movies felt like they were made on a different planet at times. Buddha's Palm is one example of that. This is a unique and creative action flick that will have the viewer shaking their head in disbelief at what they're actually watching. The fighting uses a lot of wire work and special effects for the fantasy-based attacks. In general, I'm not the biggest fan of special effects-driven projectile attacks in Asian films, mostly because of the poor quality effects. But there's actually some really cool stuff in Buddha's Palm. I really like the creativity on display here. At one point, some dudes attack with a form of black magic, I guess, that implements musical instruments. At one point, a golden Buddha appears who looks like a thin sheet of metal. Like when it turns sideways, it looks like a thin sheet of metal, but it fights some of the characters in the movie somehow. And then the bad guy has a crazy long-distance kicking technique it's pretty crazy. This is all good stuff here, people. As an added bonus, we get some fun death scenes that include some exploding bodies, and I am a big fan of exploding bodies. However, if you're looking for a more traditional martial arts film, you will not find a whole lot of that in Buddha's Palm. There's a lot less emphasis on hand-to-hand fighting in this than a typical martial arts flick. So make sure you understand that before going into it. Another memorable element of this movie is the beast. Oh yes, there's a beast in this movie. A flying beast that reminded me of, those two-person dragon dance costumes that you see in Chinese festivals. But this guy is more goofy-looking, I would say. I laughed the first time I saw him, and I don't even know if it's a him. I should call it. And it's definitely an entertaining creature that is created entirely through practical effects, which is pretty admirable, actually. But don't let its goofy appearance fool you, because it actively saves the protagonist when they're in bad situations. So give the thing credit. The beast is noteworthy and it's useful. Definitely a highlight in this movie. I love the flying beast. In typical Shaw Brothers fashion, there are some very neat sets on display along the way. Some of the sets that these guys built are pretty neat looking and actually quite beautiful at times. Kara Hui has a supporting role, so look out for her. It's only 92 minutes long. Movie flies right by, baby. Buddha's Palm is a very fun, old-school action fantasy flick with enough nuttiness to feed a tree full of squirrels. That's how nutty this film is. It's available on a bunch of streaming sites like YouTube, Amazon, etc. Just crack open some beers, check this one out. It's a good time. And as always, I'll see you next time.